WNBA ratings' worst nightmare just came true because it was just announced that Caitlin Clark will be out for the rest of the season. She's only played 13 games this season, and her most recent injury, which happened back in July, was a groin injury. The craziest part about all of this has been the reporting around her injury. The team has never given her a timetable for return. Some fans were even speculating that they've just been stringing fans along the whole time because they know that ratings and attendance would drop once they announced that she's out, which is also so ironic that they announced it the day that football season started.
The WNBA just got hit with a harsh dose of reality, one that many anticipated but hoped wouldn't arrive. At the center of the conversation is Caitlin Clark. The league's numbers are collapsing, viewership is sliding, attendance is thinning out, and the much-hyped boom era is starting to look more like smoke and mirrors. For a while, Indiana was the one bright spot holding things together. But with that momentum fading, the rest of the league seems to be drifting without a lifeline, struggling to stay above water.
I'd hope to share a better update, but I will not be returning to play the season. I spent hours in the gym every day with the singular goal of getting back out there. Disappointed isn't a big enough word to describe how I'm feeling. I want to thank everyone who has had my back through all this uncertainty. This has been incredibly frustrating, but even in the bad, there is good. And the way the fans continue to show up for me and for the Fever brought me so much joy and important perspective. I'm so proud of how this team has only gotten stronger through adversity this year.
Everything changed with a single announcement. Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury has turned what was marketed as a historic surge for the league into a hollow storyline that fans are no longer buying. The excitement has faded. The buzz has gone silent. And behind the scenes, executives aren't just uneasy, they're scrambling. What you're seeing isn't mild concern. It's full-blown panic spreading through offices across the league. By putting nearly all the spotlight on one player, the WNBA now finds itself staring down its biggest nightmare. Who do you think carries the blame for this situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's dive in.
The norm for the WNBA is being largely ignored by the media. Largely ignored by sports media. Not considered a real professional league, to the point where people didn't even know it existed until CC22. That's just a fact. You can't believe how many times I have people come in the chat and say, I didn't even know that there was a professional women's basketball league until Caitlin. Yeah, it's the facts.
The league's biggest draw, the player who brought energy to every arena, boosted every broadcast, and fueled every highlight reel, is officially sidelined for the rest of the season. After weeks of cryptic updates, dodged questions, and speculation about recovery, Caitlin Clark finally made it clear. I won't be back this year. Just one line, but it landed like an explosion. The dream of a late-season comeback is gone. No timetable, no return date, no safety cushion. Only the glaring void left by the league's brightest star. And the shockwaves aren't limited to Indiana. This wave of uncertainty is rippling across the entire WNBA, leaving executives and fans alike rattled.
Fever and Clark saying that she tried to get back on the floor. It appears that she just ran out of time, not able to get enough confidence back in her body as the season wraps up and the playoffs are likely about to begin for Indiana. I mean, it's a gut punch that basically encompasses an entire season of them. The Fever have lost so many players to injury, but obviously none bigger than Clark. And there was such a wait for this second season after her magnificent rookie season.
Let's take a look at the numbers, because they paint the real story. With Clark on the court, Indiana's matchups averaged around 1.26 million viewers, a figure most leagues would envy. But the moment she went down on July 15th with that groin injury, the audience shrank to about 400,000 per game. That's a staggering 70% drop. And remember, those figures still carried a flicker of hope that she might make a comeback. Now that her season is officially over, that drop-off isn't just steep, it's a freefall. The WNBA isn't dealing with a temporary slump. It's staring into a massive void that seems impossible to climb out of.
This has been a huge disaster as far as public perception for the WNBA. An entirely new group of people started tuning in to this league for one player and one player only. In fact, so many new people tuned into this league, the viewership for the Caitlin Clark games largely surpassed anything else going on in the WNBA. I would argue that the amount of Caitlin Clark fans are at least 3x.
Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA feels empty. Instead of projecting the strength of a professional league, it comes across more like a group struggling to convince fans it still matters. This was the league's chance to show it could hold attention even in her absence, but the results were harsh. Viewership on NBA TV dropped another 40% once she was sidelined. The gap is striking, almost unbelievable. And this isn't just about one athlete being out of action. It's the entire structure of the WNBA being revealed as fragile, built on a foundation that now looks paper-thin.
When she was supposed to return versus the Minnesota Lynx, supposedly, and then the Scott Agneses and all them start talking about she suffered a bone bruise in Phoenix, I told y'all it was a wrap. It was done. It was done. They knew it. And I believe they've known far longer. They have known. They've kept us fans in the dark, and it sucks. It absolutely sucks. Man, I was so looking forward to watching Caitlin Clark play this season. Now we have to wait an entire offseason, and we don't even know what's going to happen. They might be a lockout. There might not even be a 2026 season, guys.
Commissioner Kathy Engelbert might celebrate Clark as the most popular athlete in the country, but that kind of spotlight comes with heavy consequences. When a league's relevance hinges almost entirely on one player's health, every setback becomes a crisis. Years of work to establish stability have suddenly unraveled. Clark's arrival gave the WNBA its ticket to mainstream attention, but now picture the postseason without her. The playoffs, even the finals, risk looking more like practice runs than premier events. The Fever themselves have slipped to 7th place, their postseason hopes already uncertain. And without Clark, a deep run is out of the question. What was expected to be a championship-caliber roster powered by her leadership and playmaking has become a stripped-down version of itself, missing its leader, its engine, and its marketing powerhouse. Without her, Indiana looks like just another average team, and fans aren't showing up for average.
She knows just how much she means to everybody that buys those tickets. I mean, I would say at least like 90 to maybe not 95, but like 90% of the people in arenas were there to see Caitlin Clark, which of course they became fans of the Fever afterwards. But you know, Caitlin Clark is the draw. And then here's this one where she's actually in her street clothes. And yeah, these are, you know, pretty heartfelt photos, her in the huddle with her teammates. But I gotta say, this was quite a year. I mean, there came a certain point where people, including myself, were just like, what is actually going on?
The financial picture makes the situation even more staggering. According to sports economist Ryan Brewer, Clark's influence was projected to generate close to $1 billion in just a single season. And that estimate didn't stop at Indiana's revenue. It factored in merchandise sales, TV deals, tourism boosts, and the cultural momentum she created. Her impact stretched far beyond the basketball court. Clark became a global sensation, moving jerseys faster than Nike could stock them and filling NBA-sized arenas game after game. By contrast, much of the league is still hustling to turn social media attention into meaningful sponsorships. The gap between Clark and the rest of the WNBA isn't just about skill, it's about cultural weight. She doesn't merely contribute to the league's economy. In many ways, she is the economy.
This season has been a complete train wreck. This season's been a complete disaster. We got the GOAT, who only played 13 games, missed basically the whole season. DeWanna Bonner scammed us. Natasha Howard basically scammed us. Stephanie White's a liar. Amber Cox is a liar. Kelly Krauskopf's a liar. Now we have to go a whole offseason with the front office we don't trust, we don't believe in, we can't believe anything they say, and we don't know what's really going to happen with Caitlin Clark's health.
The sense of panic now is impossible to ignore. Think about it. Throughout the 2024 season, opponents made Clark their target. Elbows, hard fouls, constant trash talk. It often seemed like more effort went into trying to take her down than into elevating their own games. And now, With arenas half full and the spotlight fading, those same players are realizing the backlash. The jealousy, the hostility, it all looks pointless in hindsight. Because the very player they tried to wear down is gone, and with her, much of the league's momentum has vanished. Here's the harsh reality. The WNBA staked its future on Clark, but failed to protect her. She absorbed more punishment than anyone else, with 17% of the league's flagrant fouls landing on her alone. That's not random, that's a pattern. And under Engelbert's watch, referees allowed it to continue. The end result? The league's brightest star is sidelined, and the WNBA is left paying the price. Declining attendance, collapsing TV ratings, and sponsors quietly questioning whether they've invested in a sinking product.
Caitlin Clark was hurt after that Liberty game. That's when they should have said, we need to wait this out until the All-Star break. But instead, they worried about their ticket sales, TV ratings, and all this stuff. So they actually had Caitlin Clark come back a couple weeks earlier than expected. And I think that's the real reason why she's out. They mismanaged this entire season. I don't respect the GM. I don't respect the president anymore. I really don't respect the coach. They all lied on false pretense. That's all they did. They kept lying and kept stringing Caitlin Clark like a carrot on the string. And all these fans kept going to the games hoping that she'll come back.
Let's strip away the spin and look at what really happened during Clark's absence. The league tried to force new storylines, manufactured rivalries, hyped up drama, but fans didn't buy in. Take the so-called Angel Reese rivalry games. Without Clark, the seats were half empty and the buzz evaporated. Chicago Sky matchups, which were supposed to ride the wave of Clark's popularity, drew barely 6,000 fans, numbers you'd expect from a high school gym, not a professional league. And remember, their arena holds nearly 10,000. In one of the country's biggest markets, they still couldn't fill the building. The illusion completely unraveled before that June showdown, when word spread that Clark wouldn't be playing. Within 48 hours, resale tickets plunged from $86 to just $25. That's not a dip. That's a collapse. Teams everywhere exposed their desperation. Franchises moved games to bigger arenas just to cash in on Clark's drawing power, and when she went down, they were left stranded. Washington provides the clearest example. The Mystics relocated a matchup to Baltimore to handle the expected Clark-driven demand. Once she was ruled out, ticket prices free fell from $41 to $1. Yes, a single dollar got you in the door. That's not demand, that's embarrassment. And it highlights a brutal truth. By banking everything on one superstar, while failing to shield her from reckless officiating, the league left itself with no backup plan when things inevitably fell apart.
Only a huge blow for the Fever, but also for the entire WNBA. Caitlin was out with an injury back in June. Viewership dropped over 50% across the league. That's the kind of effect that she has on things. And it seems like from her post and how they announced it, Caitlin was the one that was trying so hard to get back on the court. She has traveled to every single away game. She's always meeting with fans, taking photos, signing autographs, doing all of the things because she knows how many people come out specifically to see her. But I'm really interested to see what viewership and attendance looks like now that it's official that she's done. The hope is...
And just when things couldn't get worse, Clark's season-ending announcement landed at the most critical time. Playoff positioning. With her in the lineup, the Fever were legitimate championship contenders. Without her, they're barely holding on, struggling just to survive the first round. How do you compete when your top scorer, offensive spark, and the player who fills arenas nationwide is suddenly gone? You can't. The Fever's mission has shifted from chasing a title to mere damage control. For the league, the consequences extend far beyond the court. Fans who plan trips, bought premium tickets months ahead, and tuned in solely for Clark are checking out. The sentiment across social media is exactly what Engelbert and her team feared. If she's out, we're out. That's a huge blow. Casual fans, millions drawn in by her college fame, are gone. Sponsors who invested expecting Clark to headline events are reconsidering. And TV networks, which built schedules around her star power, are now scrambling for replacement content. knowing that no Liberty versus Lynx matchup can replicate her audience pull.
This has been a full circle moment for the WNBA. With all the chatter of Kathy Engelbert saying, oh, if one player gets injured, well, you have it. That one player got injured. And now you have it. There's no conversation around the league. No positive, no negative, no conversation at all. The only media talking about the WNBA are the content creators, are the YouTubers, are people with podcasts, people with their own shows, etc., etc. But you go on to ESPN, nobody's talking about the W. You go on to Fox Sports, nobody's talking about the W. The WNBA has managed to turn off a fan base that would have elevated this league.
And this is the nightmare no one at league headquarters wants to voice. The WNBA finals without Caitlin Clark could turn into a complete disaster. Networks that were banking on record-breaking playoff numbers are now bracing for massive ratings drops. Fans weren't tuning in to see who wins the championship. They were watching to see who could take down Clark. Without her, the tension evaporates, and casual viewers lose their reason to care. The ripple effects are enormous. ESPN and ABC, which already saw ratings fall by 55% during Clark's first absence, now face the possibility of an entire postseason without her. This isn't a minor decline, it's a total void. Coverage was built around her. Programs leaned on her star power. Headlines revolved around her. Now, the networks risk a postseason that feels irrelevant. And here's the striking reality. Clark doesn't need them nearly as much as they need her. That shift in power is something no one anticipated.
I've got a couple of things. I've got my dude, Jason Whitlock, saying he's done. He's out. We've got Colin Cowherd saying, you know what? Guess what I didn't talk about on my show this year? The WNBA. Guess why? He just come out and said it yesterday. Because Caitlin Clark was not playing. That's why. He said, I led my show, my biggest, largest national sports radio show in the country. I led my show with Caitlin Clark 6 times last year.
But let's pause to admire Clark's timing. She could have prolonged the suspense, leaving fans hoping for a miraculous playoff return. That would have kept the audience engaged and the league pretending it was still thriving. Instead, she made her move decisively. One announcement, one line, and the dream was over. It landed like a calculated knockout at the exact moment the league least expected it. Meanwhile, while Engelbert and rival players wasted energy trying to take her down, Clark flipped the narrative, exposing their vulnerability without even stepping on the court. For months, the WNBA promoted the idea that it was bigger than any one player, but Clark's announcement shattered that illusion. Without her, the league reverts to its pre-Clark state, a niche product with a loyal yet limited fan base, struggling to fill arenas under 10,000 and battling for ratings that barely register on network dashboards. That's not growth. It's regression, but Clark's absence isn't just a setback for Indiana. It's an existential crisis for the entire league. The reality is clear. She wasn't merely the biggest star. She was the centerpiece of the entire show. And the cruelest part? This collapse could have been avoided if Engelbert and the officials had enforced rules to protect her. Rather than letting her endure repeated fouls from jealous opponents, the league might have maintained stability. Instead, she was turned into a target, the long-term vision sacrificed for short-term gains, and now the league is left without the very star it built its rise around. It's a textbook example of how to destroy your own golden goose.